Hi, everybody. This is Katie Sweetman with Empowering Astrology, and it's time for another Facebook Live. And I thought it would be a good opportunity to break down a little bit more what's been going on in the heavens, especially since we wrap up the Mars opposite Pluto today. And because of that, there's been some really strong Pluto energy going on going on in the heavens right now. So it's interesting. There's a little black line in the background. Anyway, so what's going on? How can we work with all this strong Pluto energy? And I wrote about this in my update today about facing the shadow. And what happens when the shadow gets activated? And we know this, I say this to people often, is that astrology teaches us what time it is. And so it's not that the planets are doing anything to us. It's just, different hands on different parts of the clock that's saying, okay, today or this week or this year is really focused on a certain type of energy. So we know that this week, astrologically, even last week, we had this strong Pluto energy. Mars has been making what's called an opposition to Pluto. So Mars is in Cancer right now. I believe it's at, I'll look at my trusty ephemeris. Mars is at 22 degrees right now, 22 degrees of Cancer. So it's opposing in the sky Pluto, which is in the opposite sign, 22 degrees of Capricorn. So we are facing the things that maybe we don't want to face. And because we're looking at Mars, Mars as a planet, we're looking at how we take action, how we use our power, how we stand up for ourselves, how we get motivated. And Pluto is showing us right now, and maybe not as intensely as maybe yesterday or earlier today, that maybe there's work that needs to be done. Because, and I said this in my update, Pluto shows us the things that we don't want to look at. And my personal story is that there were different points in my life where I would attract people with anger problems. They would explode, they would be angry kind of inappropriately, or people that would use, kind of take power over me. And when you start to use astrology, at least this is how I use astrology, to zoom back, to take a higher perspective of your life, my life, we can kind of see some lessons that are happening. And so this becomes a very powerful, beautiful, messy moment when we can see how we are using a certain planetary energy. And so for me, I was like, wow, I'm not owning my power. I'm not setting up for myself. I'm not using my voice in the way, I'm not setting boundaries in the way that I should. And so here were, people coming in and going right over those boundaries. So that was my lesson to learn. And I share that because maybe that's something similar that's happening, or maybe, there's a threat of that that's happening for you. And so this was, coming up with a client, I think it was yesterday, where it was very much about her finding her own power, being able to stand on her own 2 feet. And because we know astrology teaches us what time it is, this is the moment. This is the moment when we start to see that the boss or the ex-partner or the current partner is running all over us, and we're like, oh man, I gotta say no. I gotta find my Mars. I gotta redo my Mars opposite Pluto, because Pluto talks about how there's a transformation process that needs to happen, but a process that needs to happen on a soul level. We're not talking on a very kind of mundane, like, somebody was mean to you on your commute. I mean, like, we're talking like this is a deep threaded issue. So, I wanted to use this opportunity, like I said, to just go a little bit more deeper into what is happening with the astrology right now, because it's leading us up into the eclipse season. So right now we are a couple of weeks away, 3 weeks away from, a couple weeks away from the solar eclipse on July 2nd, at least here in the United States. And then July 16th, there is a lunar eclipse also in the United States on that day. It might be different if you are in Australia and Asia. Both those eclipses in their own way, they activate the energy of Pluto. And right now, Pluto has been around what are called the lunar nodes. So that's kind of also telling us that it's time that we're doing a lot of deep, powerful soul work right now. I know a lot of you are tired. I know a lot of you are like, when does it end? But we are in a very different facet of time. I mean, I don't have to tell you. You can just look back a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. We're not living the same story that we were, maybe, the same characters and the same themes, but definitely different level of things. And so we have to do our work. That's what time it is. And that's what the astrology has been telling us what time it is. So we're doing our work. And I think that the North Node in Cancer right now is a reminder that we have to take care of ourselves. We have to feed ourselves. We have to nurture ourselves, because otherwise we get burned out. Otherwise we get exhausted. And when we are tired and exhausted from this work of transforming and letting go, and we have to make sure we're putting something back in. And usually that's, the softness of life, the sweetness of life. Sometimes we have to work to get that. We have to go out and get it ourselves because it's not coming to us right away. So these eclipses with the North Node in Cancer, the South Node in Capricorn, I think that things are a bit intense right now. So make sure you are doing your work right now. I'll do a quick go around the zodiac so we can kind of place this energy in each sign. And when I say the sign, I do also mean the rising sign. And also, if you have questions, do put them in the chat. I'll do my best to answer if it's a quick question. And yes, I'm happy to be able to share this. So hello to those who are listening live, and also those who are watching the replay. So I also am doing a webinar on Pluto July 13th, which is a month away. But I think as we get closer to eclipse season, we'll see this kind of Pluto energy start to become more prevalent. And so in this webinar, we're going to talk about what is Pluto, how do we work with Pluto, how do we, and maybe this is a big ask, but how do we work with let's say the soul alchemy of Pluto, when we do that shadow work, when we have those moments of aha, when we take consciousness of the different relationships in our lives and the different ways that Pluto manifests with other people. And yes, hello, Austria. So I was going to start using bad German. I have very rusty German because I studied it in high school. But anyway, so with the Mars opposite Pluto today. Now, if you are an Aries, or Aries rising, this is really happening on, let's say, a very fundamental axis for you. It's home and family, it's the world, it's parents, it's, that stake you have in the ground, it's everything that rotates around. And so with Mars right now in what's called your home sign, you may be seeing that, you might have to move. You might have to plant yourself in a place that's very different than where you've been before. Maybe you're not literally moving. Maybe it's an emotional move. Maybe it's making changes in the home to reflect some sort of new reality. I actually know a couple of Aries rising, and they actually are moving, but that's not going to necessarily be the case for everybody. And then, with Pluto and Saturn in your career sign, the direction that your life is taking right now is undergoing some sort of transformation. I mean, you could say it's been undergoing some sort of transformation since 2008. This has been a long story, but it's so much about career right now for you, Aries rising, and what you are putting out there into the world. If you are a Taurus, this energy is happening really around voice. What do you believe? How do you think? How do you communicate? How do you see the world? How do you travel? There's very much a focus on education at the moment. And that could be education on all levels, maybe even taking a class or going back to school. So if you are a Taurus, I think you're in a time when you really need to open up your eyes, Taurus, because Saturn and Pluto is happening in what's called your 9th sign. So I would use this opportunity as you've had some confrontations in terms of communication or experiences with information and ideas that might have been confrontational right now, is that you open up how you communicate. You talk about what you need. So Taurus. Moving on to Gemini, this has been really activating the part of your chart that talks about money, security, stability. And I know in my last Facebook Live, I talked about how Capricorn needs a hug right now, but I think Gemini needs a hug right now too. I've been seeing a lot of clients that are Gemini and Gemini rising. I was actually looking at my client book and I was like, boom, 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 Gemini rising, or even Gemini moon. And I think that this is just a little bit of a trying time for Gemini. And so a lot of deep buttons are getting pressed and a lot of these questions around, am I safe? So you've got Mars right now really motivating you to create financial stability and security in your life. But you also have Saturn really poking at your fears, your vulnerabilities. So this is kind of hitting you in a spot that might feel a little uncomfortable, Gemini. Moving to Cancer. This is really in I'm going to say tough spot, but maybe there's a better way to put that. It's happening right along what's called your 1st and your 7th, which is to say how you are meeting people, facing people. And so you might be having experiences in your life where somebody is like the manifestation of Pluto, meaning they are really poking your boundaries. They are really getting you to stand up for yourself. They are really teaching you lessons about power. And so with Mars and Cancer right now, you might be a bit emotional. You might be feeling a lot. I mean, Cancer, you do feel a lot as a sign in general. Somebody says Gemini, Sun and Moon, hugs are welcome. Yes, hugs for all the signs. So back to Cancer. So you might be really feeling a lot of emotional buttons right now. So it's just really important for you to be aware that this dynamic, and it's playing out into July because we are in eclipse season, is really forcing you to make changes in how you do relationships, how you interact with people. Going into Leo, this is happening in a part of your chart that is behind the scenes. So on one hand, you might have your dreams are really vivid or your emotions are really vivid. But then you have this kind of, you've Saturn right now in what's called your health and wellness sign. So it's a time when you may be more aware than usual of a very strong link between your unconscious and how that manifests in your body. So the body is a wonderful, beautiful instrument, and it will tell you exactly what's wrong, even if nothing is quote unquote wrong in terms of tests and whatever, but the body is showing you where something's not wrong, and that wrong might be someplace, subconscious, unconscious that you're not looking at. So this is a time for you to pull away, Leo, to meditate, to reflect, to listen to your body's intelligence, to see what you're missing, about a deeper insight into what's going on. You might have to make some diet changes to see how your body can kind of be more in harmony with some deeper emotions. If you are a Virgo, so this is happening along friends and also this idea of identity. And it's so important, Virgo, right now for you to know exactly who you are. And I said this in my last Facebook Live, you're a sign that can sometimes put other people first. And then because of that, not know who you are. So this is a time for you to really take yourself seriously. But, you know, as you do so, like, how does that interact with your friends, your social circle? Do you feel like people are really seeing you, really valuing who you are? So this is a time of a lot of transformation, Virgo, but as you transform, like, you might find that your friendships are shifting, the social circles you're attracted to, the communities that you're attracted to are shifting. Then going into Libra. So Libra, this is happening along the lines of your career and also home. So just kind of like Aries, but reversed. So Libra, this is a time when it's, you know, you're kind of being pushed out of the nest a little bit this year. You're having to work a lot on your foundation, and that foundation might have seen a lot of changes over the last 10, 11 years. A lot of changes in home and family. This is about you putting down roots. But at the same time, you know, what do you want to do when you grow up? What do you want to do professionally? Where do you want to take your professional life, take your career? So this might be creating a lot of tension along this very fundamental axis in your life. So you might be, you know, getting some pushes and nudges with this strong energy to really let go of the past, really let go of what's familiar, and go out not only into something new, but to something that's really going to nurture you and really make you, you know, want to do, you know, you're really connected to what you want to do in the world. I mean, this is, as you go into eclipse season, Virgo, you're one of those signs. I mean, those signs are Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn, that are really in this turning point of the next, let's say, few months. So Libra, so make sure you're also taking care of yourself, because this is, I think, probably hitting on some tender spots right now. Going into Scorpio. So for Scorpio, this is happening. It's really asking you, what do you believe in? How do you see the world? What's your philosophy? What's your faith? And it's hitting on a point where maybe you've been holding on to some old ideas about the way things are, maybe limiting your perspective. And so there's a tension going on between the, you know, the mind and, you know, ideas versus what your wisdom and your knowledge. So there's a need to really communicate your wisdom and knowledge right now, Scorpio. I guess here I am on Facebook Live. I am a Scorpio. But you know, I will say, and for Scorpio and for Aries too, you know, Mars is your ruler. It's your ruling planet, and it's facing off with Pluto. So if you are an Aries, if you are a Scorpio, this has been kind of intense energy. I mean, you could say as a Scorpio, you're used to having to make big changes. You're used to having to transform, but it doesn't make it any easy. So hang in there, Scorpio. Moving on to Sagittarius. So Sagittarius, this is hitting on some emotional buttons. Mars right now is pressing on some very tender spots for you, Sagittarius. And there's this back and forth going on between the, am I safe? Do I have enough? Do I have enough resources? Do I have enough money? This is, you know, it's maybe bringing up things from the past. It's maybe bringing up old fears, a lot of deep psychological material. So definitely use this time to be present with what's coming up. You know, sometimes Sagittarius can put a happy face on and just avoid, go travel. But it's really an important time, and especially as we go into eclipse season, to not face away, or not shy away rather, from the deep emotional work that's coming up right now. So Capricorn, you also need a hug too. So Capricorn, this is hitting on relationships, you versus your, the other person. Now, this doesn't necessarily have to be romantic relationships. It's talking about how you interact with people, full stop. So there is a deeper story of what's happening right now. That's part of a story that this year where you have to change how you interact with people, how you open up to people, how you negotiate, how you compromise. And so I think it's so hard with Capricorn right now because I think a lot of the walls are coming down around Capricorn, and Capricorn's natural instinct, because it's an earth sign, is to keep preserving, keep holding on. So it's hard when everything is kind of coming down around. So open your heart, Capricorn. I know maybe it's been a tough year, but if there are people in your life that can show you that moon, that cancer connection, then it can be a wonderful time to open up to somebody. Going on to Aquarius. So Aquarius, this is happening in the part of your chart that is about identity. No, not identity. Work projects, how you take care of your body. So there's this, right now Aquarius with Saturn is in what's called your last sign. So you're in a time where you're coming to the end of a very big story. And if you're an Aquarius listening, I mean, this story began like almost 30 years ago, because one of your planets is Saturn, and Saturn takes almost 30 years to go around your chart. So the rhythm of your life, kind of has these, like this slow but very distinct chapters. And right now you're at the end of a very long story. And so it's about letting go. And there's part of you that's really behind the scenes right now. But then you have Mars. And so it's pushing back and forth between the part of you that wants to hold back and let go and the part of you that needs to be out there in the world doing things, getting things done, work, projects. So as you're focused maybe more on your spiritual health right now, make sure you are also focusing on your physical health right now. And then lastly, Pisces. So this is happening in, right now it's about identity, the self, how you express who you are. And you have the tension happening in friendships and community and social circles. So you might be having this push-pull that's happening between maybe friendships that are really needing to shift and transform, maybe friends that aren't really friends or who aren't the best allies. So this is a time when you need to really kind of stand up for who you are and your individuality, because sometimes Pisces, you can kind of mold, kind of flow into things. So this might be pressing on some themes around self, themes around connection to the whole. So as I was saying at the beginning of this Facebook Live, is that it's, with the strong Pluto energy right now, this is a really powerful opportunity to do soul work, because Pluto helps connect us to the level of the soul's many facets, the soul's varied journey. And that when we have these moments, when we have those breakthrough moments, those aha moments, like when I realized that if I didn't start standing up for myself and being in my power, then I was going to keep attracting people in my life who would easily and gladly take it from me. And so that was a very poignant lesson that I had to learn. That was a very Pluto lesson that I had to learn. And so, I mean, one of the things that Spirit, I'm also a medium, but also Spirit teaches me is that Pluto is a mirror. And Pluto is a mirror to show us the things that we wouldn't normally see about ourselves, because they're hidden, they're in the psyche. So as we go into this summer, as perhaps as intense as it may be, don't shy away from the transformative work, because when we have those big moments in our lives, like everything changes. I mean, I can say this from personal experience. And so, especially when I'm working with clients, like that's what I'm trying to do, whether we are in like one session or like multiple sessions, is that how do I help you have a transformative experience so that you can see yourself through very different eyes, that you can see how, Pluto is manifesting in your life. And even if you can't work on with me one-on-one, that's why the webinars are a good way to kind of get some of this information. I am doing that webinar on Pluto on July 13th, which if you go to my website, there's information on it. There's information under events, and I think it's like events and classes, which you can register. You don't have to be able to, what's the word I'm looking for? If you can't make it live, you can still watch it. So you'll get the video replay. Again, also I have sessions available, so you can go to my website. I have a booking calendar, but I also have events, and this might be a little last moment, but for those who are in New York City, tomorrow I'm going to be on a panel talk in Brooklyn for astrology, empowerment, and pride for Pride. It's going to be in Gowanus. Doors open at 6:30, and the event starts at 7:30, and this is on tomorrow, June 20th, the day before the summer solstice, at least summer solstice here in New York. Also important, I just want to quickly mention that I also have a workshop for those who are in the New York City area or are keen to travel. So one of the things that I do in parallel to my astrology work, and because I am a psychic medium, is that working with energy. And working with energy means learning about kind of the fundamental energetic reality that is all around us. How does it work? How does the mechanism work? How do you know that, the second before the phone rings that it's your friend, like that your friend's about to, even before you pick up the phone. Does anybody pick up the phone these days? But I mean, like, see the thing on the caller ID. How does that information travel? It travels through something invisible. It actually, all that information travels through something called the weft, which is this energetic fabric of reality. And when we realize that we are not just these individuals walking around doing our thing, that we're actually interacting with this invisible space, with this invisible fabric, that we hopefully have a very different perspective on how we show up every day in our life, so that we can start to make different decisions, knowing that how we are impacting this invisible fabric, the weft, how we are interacting with each other, how we are recognizing each other. We'll also learn about what are called the energetic centers, also known as chakras commonly, and how they function, what are their qualities, how when we start to feel that one of these centers is off, maybe we walked into a room and there was an argument and suddenly we started to feel a little weird ourselves, that you can start to do certain very practical techniques. So this is not, just sitting in a day and a half workshop and learning about theory. You're actually learning how to work with energy, work with your own energy, start to recognize how your own system is maybe blocked or open, how you feel when you walk into a different situation, or if you meet somebody new. Are you open? Are you closed? Are you happy or are you nervous? Like, what are you picking up on somebody? Because all that information is transmitting energetically. And so because we live in a time where things are going on in the world, the astrology is certainly telling us that things are going on in the world. How do we every day show up differently? How do we make an impact on the energy of the world, on this thing called the weft? How do we help humanity? So you'll learn about a few principal things. One is identity. Who are we? What does it mean to be in our identity? We'll also learn about the energetic centers, also known as the chakras, and how they function and how they connect. We'll also learn about something called the subtle bodies. So we are not just a physical self, but we are also an energetic self that ripples outward. And maybe you've heard of the astral body. That's one that's commonly people know about. And then we'll learn about the elements, the earth. We'll learn about water, and we'll learn about air and like what they connect to and how they work. And we'll learn about how this energetic fabric of reality starts functioning for all these things, like the elements, like identity. And then how is it all situated, and like how is this world created energetically? So it's a very powerful, very simple workshop. It's not my teaching, but it's something that is, it was, when I did it for 4 years ago, 5 years ago, it was so powerful that I had to learn how to share it. And because it's mostly in Europe, there's nobody here in America that's, well, there's maybe like one other person in America that's doing it. So it's a wonderful opportunity, and I'm just going to keep trying to do it, keep trying to share this so everybody can connect with it. And for those who feel that they are looking for something that's going to really help them see themselves and see their lives differently and to transform their lives for humanity, for the better, then it's here. So this is the weekend of January 29th and 30th. All this information is on my website, empoweringastrology.com. You can go there, you can look at my events list. We're going to do more of these Facebook Lives. I'm going to repost this information also on YouTube, and we'll also, you can find me on Instagram, you can find me on Twitter. So it's been a wonderful time to be able to share all this information for you. I thought it would just be, it's a little impromptu, but since we did that first Facebook Live a few days ago and had a really great connection with you all, I really wanted to have this opportunity to do it again and explain a little bit further what's going on with the astrology right now. That should be like the title, what's going on with the astrology right now. So it's a lot of Pluto. I know that it's a bit tough when we have Pluto. Pluto is tough astrology, but just make sure you're reaching towards that Cancer North Node right now. So make sure you're getting a lot of love, make sure you're a lot of affection, a lot of softness. Cancer talks about the things that we really need to feel safe and nurtured. So however you need to do that, in a healthy way, of course. So unless there are any other questions, I will say goodbye to those who are watching live and to those who are watching the replay, and look forward to connecting with you all again. So bye.